All right, there it is. We are live. Welcome to episode 27 of the Practical Magic Show. It's amazing to be way more than halfway through this year, and I'm really excited for our guest today. So, Practical Magic Show is about capturing more of the juice of life. It's kind of pulling back the curtain and looking for more richness, more depth that also manifests in the external material world as well. And so I am really excited about our conversation today with Jonathan Wilkinson, who will be talking about how accessing more of the wild within creates more magic in the outside world. And Jonathan is one of the most brilliant people I know and has had a massive impact on my life. He's the coach to my husband. So obviously, just like that, like I feel super honored to have you here. You have I wrote this in the intro, but you just have this like magnetism and this groundedness and just this very expansive, open, powerful presence that I hear your voice ringing through my house all the time. And even just like the sound of your voice grounds me. And I'm like, okay, right. And, the impact that you've had on my husband and really tapping into a deeper experience of life to enable you to create and feel and access more is really inspiring. And so thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me. It's a real honor and a pleasure. And I've just noticed the name that you have there, the Queen of Magic. So I'm loving that already. And as I said, it's beautiful to be here. And thank you for those very kind words that, I'm probably a shade of red after letting those land.
I usually promise my guests I'll embarrass you a little because I just love, like, you deserve that intro, and just to give a little bit more context to the work that you do. So I described you as you create kings. And I know you and the work you do with Leanne is you really help people tap into an inner sovereignty. And we could talk about that. We could go there. To really, you have the Primal Happiness podcast. And what I love about you and what I really want to explore today is this aspect of primal and wild and why it's so impactful to the word I've been using lately is to unleash that, because it really feels like a wild animal trying to claw its way out in me anyway. And so I'm really excited to explore this with you.
And that is so much of what we're about, aside from sovereignty, which is a huge, huge piece, is we help people reclaim their wildness and actualize their deepest gifts. And that's such a key part of it. Like for me, for anyone to truly be the gift they came here to be, trying to do that without first reclaiming their wildness is just, it's really challenging. Like this, it just makes life so much easier. And that is the inner wildness that you referenced, but also the outer wildness. And that's why I love the kind of connection of bringing together of these two elements of wildness and magic that you spoke to already, because probably best if I kind of set out where I think we are and where the challenge is in this crazy modern world that we live in, is that the vast majority of us are domesticated, meaning we're of the house. We are no longer connected to land, to nature, to wild, to our natural habitat that we have evolved to thrive in since the dawn of time. And magic is something that's so dear and close to my heart. And ever since it was where a lot of my core sort of wounding came from when magic left my life until the point of 8. Like everything was magic. To me, it was just the most beautiful thing. And then my dad left, and when he left, the magic left with him. And I got really serious and tried to control situations. And because I was brought up in a domesticated life way instead of an indigenous life way that supports healthy evolution, expression, and expansion of human animals, I closed myself to it. And for me, when I started to really reclaim my wildness, my connection to the wild, I just immediately it's like a switch went on for me. And I do vision quests a lot with men. And whenever you get to spend time in nature, you can't help but just witness magic dancing in front of you. And there are many forms of magic, and I'm sure we'll dive into all of those. But for me, that the reason why wildness is so important is because the wild is magic. It's as simple as that. Nature is magic, like the unfolding in front of us in nature. Wherever you go, when you ground yourself in there and you start to get in touch with those somewhat subtle undulations of life just dancing in front of you. But when we're so caught up in that cycle of consumption and output in the domesticated modern world, we've lost that sensitivity to attune ourselves to magic, to then align ourselves and then work with the magic and practice it. And so, yeah, just to kind of say that from the outset, like that's why for me, I feel this is a beautiful kind of place to look at magic from.
Yeah. Oh gosh. And I feel like you just gave the forward, the table of contents, and the outline, like all right there, so succinctly. And man, I gotta think for a second, because there's 14,000 places that I would love to dive into. But I loved what you just said actually about consumption and output. And then over here, you said like attuning to the sensitivities and aligning. And actually, even just those four words are such a beautiful structure, like consumption and output in the domesticated world. And then there's like alignment and attunement in the wild realm, the magical realm. Let's talk a minute though, before we get into that, about the word domestication. Because I was triggered when you said that. I was like, because I immediately feel like the perfectly curled 50s housewife in the white picket vest. I'm like, don't fucking put me in that box.
I
But
put myself in that box for the
yeah,
most part, just to say.
no, for sure. But let's talk about that, because I really feel like most people are fish in water
Mm,
around. And I was, and in many ways still am, a fish in water. Like, I think most people don't even know they're domesticated. So can we
yeah.
talk a little bit more about what that means? How do you know? What does it look like? What does it feel like?
Uh, I think it's always really helpful just to look back to a more indigenous life way, and there are still some fortunate souls who are blessed to still live an indigenous life way, one where they are deeply integrated, aligned, and one with nature, one with the wild, one with magic. And what happened for over the few hundred years, probably the last 200 years in the Industrial Revolution have been really key with this, but we can really start to date it back to religion, really, not to kind of make it about religion's bad, but just with that whole thing that kind of shifted the lens on wildness, that the only savages were wild, or that's where the witch wound comes from, and there are people were getting burned at the stake. And then again, we came into the Industrial Revolution, where all of a sudden we lived in houses where even when we you can go a few thousand years back where we had homes, but our feet were still on the floor. We were still deeply connected with, again, those cycles of life and nature. And for me, all disease, be it mental or physical, stems from disconnection. And domestication is another word for disconnection for me, from what's innate to us. And so instead of growing up in an indigenous life way, where around us we had people modeling what it means for men to be in their healthy masculine, for women to be in a healthy feminine, for elders to just be there, seeing our gifts, the magic within us, and having those nurtured, and to have medicine men and women, shamans, seers. And that's the other thing, it isn't just magicians, my guys, druids, shamans. It went right from the top, from the elders right down to children. Everybody was magical and in the practice and dance with magic itself. And so as we've started to kind of go along this timeline into where we find ourselves now, which is at really the extremes of domestication in almost all of its forms. And that means an extreme of disconnection with what nourishes us, what sustains us, what allows our sensitivity to crackle and pop and come alive with intuition. And I love the quote, the longest journey a human can take, be that a man or a woman, is the 16 inches from their head down to their hearts. And this domesticated world just pushes us to operate and live from our heads. And while that can be really helpful in the practice of magic, without us actually touching the very fabric of magic itself, the raw materials of what we get to work with, yeah, it doesn't work out that well. And so I could talk forever on domestication, but that's kind of just a little snapshot. And please, direct me to unpack anything a little deeper. But that's in a rather large nutshell, why I think domestication is so tragically impacting all human animals when it comes to their connection with magic and just about everything else.
And I really, really, really love that, because two things occur to me is, and you've said this a lot, and I've heard you say this a lot, the crazy modern world. And I love the way you say that, how often you say that, because it's a constant reminder that, oh yeah, I'm not the crazy one.
Yeah.
I'm not the crazy one. And I think why I love what you just shared is because so many people feel anxious and confused and lost and lonely and like unexpressed and a yearning. And and for many years and much of the time, I'm still looking at what is wrong with me. Why do I feel this way? Remember to go for a hike. I live in Colorado, 14 minutes from the base of a mountain. And I get out there, and there's something that I experience every time I hike, and especially when I hike by myself. And if I sit still long enough, I can feel the difference of the speed in me and the speed of nature. And if I sit there and quiet little by little, I was going to do this, but it's actually this, like I meet nature and I go down and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm okay. And so I love that you shared that, because and I want to really emphasize this point that like, we're not the crazy ones. We only feel crazy because we're trying to force ourselves into a way of living that is so unnatural. And not to say that it's super bad, but then when that doesn't work, what I have seen and what I have done is that we try harder and harder and harder to domesticate further through success and achievement and productivity, and it just hurts worse.
Yeah, and like you said a moment ago, what was the phrase that slipped away? I think it was going to lead me on anyway, so I'll just go to where it was going to lead me on. Is that I want to be clear that I'm not advocating that we all need to go and live in a shack in the woods and eat bugs all day, as we say. Like, I believe we are the children of this flux state where it is absolutely just crazy. It's beyond crazy, but I truly believe that we are meant to find a way of balancing while we get to evolve, because we'll evolve. We are incredible and we'll always evolve. But for the next few hundred or couple of thousand years, it's going to be pretty challenging for us who are trying to find that balance between the domesticated world and our home, the wild world there. And so for me, it's how can we thrive in this crazy modern world, which is the approach I have from it. If it is aligned for you to go and live in wilderness, then wow, go for it, but we've nearly 8 billion of us on this planet. It's just not going to be doable for all of us. So I say all that through the lens of, I'm not saying the answer is to just go and live an indigenous life way. That will solve just about anything for any person. But for us as human animals, for this civilization, for the human race we are now, it is about how we can find a balance of both, how we can bring the wild and integrate it into our domesticated lives, and how we can create the space for us to spend more time in the wild. And that's where that real balance for me will come from.
So I heard it's like about bringing more of the wild out of us and also putting ourselves more in the wild.
Yeah. And it will, if we open ourselves up to a state of openness and receptivity, it comes online. It's like there's a deep remembrance that gets activated in our DNA. It's there, like everything that every human that's ever walked this planet is within all of us. And when we place ourselves in that environment, it becomes expressed. it becomes activated, and we just know what to do. And that's where our intuition comes online, and we just drop into this heartfelt, soul, sovereign, wild state of being, which is our innate state. And a lot of people, again, in the domesticated world, can focus on becoming superhuman. If they could only taste what it's like to be our wild, whole human self, it would be beyond anything they can conceive of in the superhuman realm. And that is within us, if we only create the space for it to come online by regrounding ourselves back into wild, back into our homeland, essentially.
So if you, I don't mean to like, I heard all that and then I was like, I'm just jumping ahead here, but like I'm really intrigued to hear how. Let me slow down and actually think about the question. And I know this is your whole body of work, so forgive me for daftly asking you to put it into like a 3-step system. But what are the primary principles or the primary elements that can lead somebody back into the wild? How do we go? In other words, how do we go from domesticated back to wild, or in this integrated place?
So one of the most simplest and powerful things there is to find a sit spot in nature and to go there often and sit there in a container of no demand time, which is very rare in this domesticated modern world. And that is just such a simple and powerful step in reactivating and expressing that deep remembrance. And so that could be finding a tree that really just speaks out to you and sitting at the base of it, or just something that calls out to you. Go and have a walk in woods. Like for you living in wonderful Colorado, you're like just an abundance of wilderness, is just really asking your heart, your soul, your body, your womb to just guide you to a sit spot, a place within nature where you can sit down with no one else. Like I love how you said when you're on your own. And again, that's because whenever anyone else is there, and it's a beautiful thing to share that experience with somebody, but while someone's there, you're getting caught back in that consumption and outputting cycle, just in pure dialogue alone, or just a presence there. And so for me, the first step is to find a place in nature and sit there for at least half an hour. And that can be incredibly uncomfortable, excruciating for some people.
Yeah.
As I said, I work a lot with Vision Quest, where people will go into the wilderness for 4 days and 4 nights and fast from everything, like everything apart from water and air. And like that is a much more powerful way of bringing this online. But the most simplest first step for me is spend more time in nature. And if you live in a city, go to the park. There's generally always a green space. I've lived in cities in the past. I'm blessed to live next to the Peak District, which is the UK's oldest national park at the moment. But I've spent a lot of time in cities and I've always found a tree. I've always found a sit spot, and just purely sitting in there, everything comes to you. And I love, like, let's put this into a 1, 2, 3 step, that this is already within them. If they can just sit down and create the opening for this stuff to come through them, that's our guide. Not up here, like where I probably meant to spend 10% of our time up here. The rest of it is heart consciousness, soul consciousness, gut, all the other beautiful parts of our body. Like our body is the most intricate, incredible vessel that we get to live and experience life through. And we have totally just dampened and numbed the sensitivity to that. And so just spending half an hour in nature will bring so much of that back online, where just about everything you've ever wanted to know. And I say this, people who are on the Vision Quest, every question you've ever wanted answered, when you create that space, comes to you. It's like the first time I went on a Vision Quest, it was, have you seen the film Limitless?
Yeah.
The pill.
Yeah.
It was like that. I could just answer, and I was laying on my back, just throwing these complex questions. And it was just, the answers were flowing back to me. And talk about magic, to bring it back to magic, that's magic. Seriously, that is magic. And all we need to do is create the set and setting to open, and this stuff just to flow through us and flow to us. So Never mind a 1, 2, 3 step. I'll just give that one step. And I think that's a beautiful place to start.
Well, do you know, I'm smiling because I know there are people who are watching or are going to watch that are like, I don't want that to be the answer. Give me something more complicated. Anything like.
Okay. So let's talk about the home then.
Yeah.
So there's the going out into nature, which is obviously like a fundamental step within that. And then there is what can we do in our homes, where we spend the most time. And there is obvious things to bring nature inside, like plants. You can see I've got quite a bit of greenery behind me and a load in front of me, which really, really helps me. I also have just so many natural objects. I have a big altar over there with just so many, just not there's incredible crystals, but there's also just rocks from a beach that are there, and they help ground me energetically. It helps me come into this space, my studio space where I work. And yes, it feels like a room, but it feels nourishing. It feels like it supports me. The energy is beautiful within there. And so bring nature inside would be a really, again, simple first step. Like there are much more powerful things I could recommend, but just start there. Once you, I was going to say this may seem a bit out there, but communicate with your plants when you're watering, when you're tendering to them, or just anything with them. Create a dialogue. For me, one of the most powerful things we can do is get in touch with our heart's deepest longings. That's what's meant to guide us in life. And we're meant to speak those out to nature. And so for me, it would be journal on your heart's deepest longings and then go out into nature and speak them out to nature in the format of I long to ... I long for ... and really share the depths of your heart's deepest longings. And that again just reconnects us with nature, with Pachamama, with Gaia, whatever you want to call that beautiful earth that we're spinning on, and that self-organizing force behind life. It's, to me, the wilderness is about rekindling and reconnecting us to our source. And sometimes it can just seem like an ember. And us talking to a plant or nurturing a plant can just start to, it's like unearthing the smallest little bit of an ember. And then we can start to fan it. And eventually we can bring it into a roaring fire that, just leads on from the most simplest thing. So I'll add that bit because that's a fundamental one when you really get into heart's deepest longings and you speak that out to nature, and the universe will always respond to those heart's deepest longings that you've shared as well.
Let's look at that a little bit more, because I think that's really powerful for a few different reasons. Because if I were to, first of all, just the idea of bringing attention to our heart's deepest longings, I think for many people would be radical.
Mm-hmm.
Radical.
I know of few things more powerful.
And second, if I were to honor a heart's deepest longing, the last thing I would think to do is go into nature and speak it, because I would go straight to like, well, how do I create this? And what book do I need to read? And who can teach me? And so I love the simplicity. And you said it's out there, but sure. But the wildness is about getting out there. It's about getting outside of the way that we've always done things, with, I think if most people were honest, has only been moderately successful.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
so,
completely. And even when we start to get in touch with our heart's deepest longings, generally what comes up is a home here or this type of a relationship. And so when you can then take that down to the feeling level, what is it you long to feel? Again, we're getting back in touch with that communion that would be with nature, because we are not, this is the fundamental piece of what I'm talking to here. We are not separate from nature. We are nature. We aren't separate from the wild. We are wild. Always. That's our core. So we're just rekindling that connection. And our heart is probably the greatest touch point to our wildness, to our truth. And so when we would be in nature, we would be constantly in communion with plants, with trees, with spirits. Like, this is what the human animal is meant to be in constant connection to. And so that's why it can seem like it's about the heart, but it's actually much more than that. It is actually about our own truth, of our wildness, of our longing, and can guide us. And we're in this co-creative experience with the wild that transforms everything. So yeah, we are wild. We are not separate from nature. And it is the biggest illusion that this modern world has created, that we are somehow separate from the wild.
The same way that I felt when you said domesticated before, I was like, "Oh, no." When you said we are wild, I was like, "Fuck yes." It's like permission to just
Mm.
be what you can feel that you are deep down. Talk to me more about heart's longing. I know I love the distinction that you made about it's really about not being separate from nature, but
Mm.
for those who are domesticated and they're not as tell me more about that. Like in your experience working with people and reclaiming their wild, what are the longings that you find people are yearning for?
Mm. So I think I can kind of bring in the sovereign piece into this, which for me, which is really important, because when we're not in our sovereign, we're in kind of the opposite of that, which is our child and mostly our victim kind of thing. So what tends to happen is when we start to journey with our heart's deepest longings, we can operate a lot from a victim, i.e., stuff out there has a huge impact on us. Excuse me. So we kind of go there first of all. But when we continue this exploration, it suddenly goes much deeper than that. It goes really deeper into what the nature can provide for us, which is those core, really human desires and longings, which is to belong, first and foremost, to feel held, to feel truly seen and understood, and feel like we're just witnessed in the presence and beauty of who we are, all of which come from nature. When you spend enough time in nature, when you spend a prolonged period in time, that's there. It's there. It's like that. It's instant. And so the exploration of uncovering our heart's longings leads us back down that route. For some, it can take quite a time. And I will say as well, for anyone listening who tries it, it can be really fucking challenging. To even just open yourself, to even just get yourself out of there, down there, those 16 inches, can be really challenging, which is why I say start somewhere. And this is an evolving process. This isn't a, one and you're done situation. This is part of how we're meant as humans to live our life. We're meant to be in deep communion with our heart and its deepest longings. And we're meant to be moved to tears by them. When we share our heart's longing with nature, tears just stream down because we're connecting to our soul's truth. We're connecting to something that we are separate from. And the emotions that tend to come is because there's been a separation. And when we suddenly touch that and feel that longing, we can't help but cry in just touching the beauty of it. And this is the thing, it's such a beautiful thing. The wild is beautiful. We are beautiful. And when we can really open ourselves up to illuminate the truth of our heart and our longing and our soul, it doesn't get any better. It really doesn't. I have not had a better experience. I mean, I've journeyed a lot with various things from plant medicines, and all they do is help bring us closer to our heart's longings and to the source of what tops us up. And again, that's a cycle, because we're not getting those in-breaths where it's only ever an out-breath for the most part in the domesticated world, apart from when we're sleeping. That natural nurturing in-breath, which is, I would say, most of us long for, just that peace, harmony, the dropping into the full alivenesses of our body. Because I'll say one more thing on this is for me, what it means to be alive is to truly feel. And so if our body isn't open and receptive and truly feeling what the pulse of life, what is in front of us, we're not alive. And so why try and create a life which you're not even alive? You're just playing out a role. As well-meaning and as innocent as it is, fuck it. Once you become aware of it, go to the source. And yeah, I'll stop there because I can go on, and I know we're running up on time.
No, I love it. Oh, I love it. What's so cool that I just like, I don't know. I just want to call out for anybody watching is that you are so alive. You're so alive. Like I'm just watching you share, and there's so much energy. There's so much life that when I joked earlier that there are people like, please don't let that be the answer, because it's so simple, and yet it is so challenging.
Mm.
Just on a Tuesday, go walk out and sit by a tree. Sorry, what? No, give me like 14 steps to get to the place I want. You're like, I am. There's one step,
Mm.
sit by a tree. You're like,
Mm.
and so, but what I am calling that out is because I know that you live this. I know that you live this. And you are the embodied result of that. And it is so obvious, the life that is pulsing through you. And I love, like, I just think there's so much that you shared there that is so powerful. And this idea of like, um, the phrase that popped into my head a couple days ago was that I had spent so much time working on my livelihood that I
Mm.
work on my life.
Mm.
And I recently got to this place where I'm like, fuck it. No, like just no, it's
Mm.
not working. Like I've seen that it doesn't work so many times. But now
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, no. Like and I love that you said like playing out a role. I think that's a really I could see that being a really valuable question. Like
Yeah.
what
And the really beautiful thing about this is once you've really touched it to a point where you've really tasted it and lived it, there really isn't any going back. You may find times where you spend a certain amount of period. I do it myself. Sometimes I can go, 2 or 3 days without getting into nature, which I feel instantly, but usually I'm much more regular in that. But there's no going back. There isn't an option. There isn't a choice. Once you've tasted how it truly feels to be alive, how it truly feels to walk as the gift of life in this body and taste. And it's like a taste sensation to kind of experience just everything that life has to offer that comes from the wild, that comes from the truth of where we came from. Yes, we kind of came from our mother and via our father, but ultimately we came from the earth. Like we came from this beautiful sphere. And one of the reasons I'm so excited at the moment with the whole space race is that so many of these billionaires that are controlling this like world essentially are going to have that overview effect where they suddenly see this single cell, this beautiful, alive, throbbing, pulsing life force that we get to dance and live on and come from. Like that, for me, is really going to radically change everything. No matter what Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk or whoever Branson, whoever is doing it, or what they're doing is bad. Like, wow, that is going to be huge because the people that are kind of running the show are going to get the best connection with nature itself by seeing it from that overview aspect, which is phenomenal. And again, when I'm a billionaire, I'll be going up in one of them too.
I'll be going with you. What a optimistically refreshing perspective on the billionaire culture. Thank you for that.
When it's the worst of times, it's the best of times. I truly believe that. I really do.
This conversation did not go where I thought it was going to go, and in the best way. I love, and I want to just recap, maybe just more for me, but for everybody else as well, like how simple and beautiful. I'll tell you what I'm taking from it, and then my final question would be like if there's anything else that you just feel really needs to go in there. So I think that one, the simplicity of just going back into the wild is such a simple and unbelievably effective way of waking up the wild. And I would challenge anybody watching this to really ask yourself when the last time you were in nature. I know the majority of people they might have an answer in the years range. Like I would not be surprised. So that's one. My husband makes fun of me, see, because I hug trees with Pepper when we're hiking.
Beautiful. I love that.
The second,
what a beautiful thing for Pepper to witness as well. That lights me up.
yeah, she's speaking of wild. And the second is to really reconnect to your heart's deepest longings. I mean, I think that question is a journey. That question is a journey. And then this distinction between like the consumption and output, consumption and output, consumption and output, and over here, the in-breath. I mean, that is huge. Those are the primary things that I'm hearing from this conversation that are really impactful for me. Is there anything else, anything that you think I missed, or anything else that you feel really needs to be added into there?
Yeah, I mean, as ever, the key thing with putting anything in place is momentum, but probably a really just obvious but practical thing just to speak out is for anyone listening who feels a resonance in their heart or just in their body or in anywhere, or feels a calling to do this. Open up your calendar, your diary, and start to schedule into your diary when you are going to go to the park or into a national park or into wilderness, like if you got it on your doorstep, and literally just put that in, schedule it in, because of the incessantness of this world, that cycle of consuming and outputting. That classic thing, what isn't in a diary doesn't get done. And so just on a really practical level, please, for yourself, if you feel that resonance, bring up your calendar, your diary right now, and put in with the time and place. And if you're feeling brave enough, click that little repeat button and have it repeat on whatever cycle feels aligned as a good first step for you.
Mm. And I would add to that, if you're feeling resonance, to reach out to Jonathan. And I'm gonna offer this for you. You can tell me if it's not real, but to reach out, because you do with Leanne some really fantastic work around waking up the wild. And
Thank you.
I've been, like I said, I've benefited from indirectly through your work with my husband, and it's so powerful. So to reach out to you for that, to go do a vision quest with Jonathan, like, if you're feeling really brave, and tell those who are watching anywhere else, everywhere else that people can find you, learn from you, with you.
So we are pretty much all things primal happiness, although we have been in the rebranding and rebirthing stage for way too long, and pretty soon it'll be wakingthewild.com. But right now, just Google primal happiness and we'll come up with everything you need there. And for anyone who's looking to go deeper or explore this further, there's our podcast, and just click on the Go Deeper tab on our website, and it'll be a whole raft of things to feel into.
Very cool. Thank you so much for being here.
This has been beautiful. So thank you for this real gift. It really was so beautiful. Thank you.